All right, so I got the Sound Studio set up. This is the patch that I used for that composition. I'm calling it Parallax Roamer because the names are kind of silly and this name was kind of silly. But I call it Roamer because I used to be really into metal back when I was in like middle school and I was learning the electric guitar. I loved Iron Maiden and early Metallica and stuff like that. Although my favorite Metallica albums were Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning, Wherever I May Roam is a great example of the Phrygian mode, so I kind of went with that. Anyways, enough of that. Let me play you what this sounds like without any type of effects or anything going on. So this is just the straight Sound Studio with nothing else. Now, just keep in mind, as I was playing this in the jam, I was changing tons of settings and kind of improvising my way through it. But this, for the patch notes, I wrote it out this way, just as kind of a midpoint. So let's build on what we were talking about in the last video. And I'm going to show you how I made the harmonic structure come out in the Sub-harmonicon. So I'm going to turn down the mother and the Dfam, and we can hear just the sub. I'm going to turn down the resonance. So one thing is I turn down VCO2 quite frequently to have just the chord structure come out. So sequencer 1 is going to be playing that A minor to C, G minor to B flat. And I did toggle on the sequencer on and off as I was playing. So really, VCO1 is kind of holding down the fort for that harmonic structure. And how I did it was I have VCO1 tuned to E, and I'm making use of the fifth that comes out in the sub oscillators. So if you turn sub 1 to the third subdivision, that will be playing an A, and VCO1 will be playing an E. And I have sub 2 at the second division, so that's playing an E. So that gives us a nice, perfect fifth. So it's not really a chord, but it's kind of like a power chord, back to that Metallica style. And this runs through A minor. It runs through a power chord in A, a fifth, a perfect fifth in C, a perfect fifth in G, and a perfect fifth in B flat. So that's all that's going on in sequencer 1. Sequencer 2, if I turn down the volume on VCO1, you can hear that little sequence, that melody that I was playing in the right hand on the piano, which is A, B flat, C, D, going on in VCO2. So here, let's listen to just that. And this is just playing octaves in A. So it's tuned to A and it's just playing octaves. So that's really it that's going on with the sub. I don't have any patching in here at all except for the patch to sync the clock. I have the rhythms set to 16 and 1. And as I was playing around with it, I was playing around with the envelopes, the cutoff, the resonance, and turning off rhythm 2. If you turn off rhythm 2, then of course, we'll just play these longer chords. And as you kick it on, All right, let's talk about the mother for a second. So here I played a lot with the mix. At the very beginning, I had it turned all the way up to noise, and then I slowly brought in the oscillator. Here, if I play it, you can hear that same A, B flat, C, D. What I forgot to mention in the last video was at the very end of the phrase, I do make some variation. It's all listed on the patch sheet, but this is what it sounds like. It's a pulse wave. The pulse width is being modulated by the LFO, which is moving very slowly. The LFO is also modulating the cutoff amount. There's a little bit of resonance in there. And I played around with the envelope a lot. One of the patches that I really like in here that I want to highlight, I've used it in some of my other patches, is the linear frequency modulation. So I'm actually using the velocity from the Dfam going into my VC mix, number 2, and then coming out of that and going into the linear frequency modulation. So what that does is every time there's a big hit from the Dfam, it's going to make the frequency of the mother kind of tremble a little bit. And if I turn it way up, and I mean, that's still coming through, even though we can't hear it. But you can hear how it's still coming through the velocity, even though the Dfam's turned all the way down. And you can hear that when I turn this way up, it gets a little bit crazy. So I didn't turn it up past 9 o'clock. That's where I set my threshold. But you can still hear how it makes it a little bit unsettling. And if I turn it all the way down, it settles right back in. It's almost like a detuned effect. I think it creates a nice spooky, dark, mysterious vibe. So that is the linear frequency modulation plugged into the VC mix. That's really the only patching that's going on with the mother. Beyond that, it's just coming out of the assign input into the Dfam. Now let's go on to the Dfam. So this is pretty straightforward. When I started, I had the 5th step turned down. So this is what it sounded like. Now, beyond turning the 5th step up, I didn't do a lot with messing with the settings of the Dfam. And that's really it. The only patching that I have going on is pitch to noise, and then I'm coming out of the velocity to do the frequency modulation thing that I just mentioned. But that's it. There is not a lot of patching going on in this. And I did that intentionally because frequently when I sit down, I'm always trying to come up with creative patches. And for this one, I wanted to focus more on creative notes and a creative composition. So I kept the patching relatively simple. So let's hear it all together again. This time, I'm going to try transposing it up a 5th so you can hear how that plays in as well. Let's transpose it after it goes around once. Gotta get that last note in there. Anyways, so that's my patch Parallax Roamer. If you like these patches, I'm going to put this in my June update of my patch book. There's a whole bunch of other patches on there. I'm going to be updating all the videos on those patches as well, because I like to include videos like this or similar to this so you can hear what these patches sound like without any effects and with simple explanations. So if you're into that thing, please check it out. It's a great way to support my channel, and I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.